just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. Coach Nick, welcome back. Always exciting to engage on a topic that we can go deeper on. Today's topic, I'd like it to be about commitment and buy-in, because I think something magical happens when we're totally on board with something. And the opposite of that is anything else. So I think that's interesting, right? Because usually you have a whole spectrum. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it's black and white, in or out, yes or no. For me, it's either 100% or something less than that. And if you want to get the greatest results possible, don't you have to be at 100% no matter what?
Yeah, I got all these different visuals popping off in my head here, but yeah, you might say, "Oh, look, if I'm 99% committed, isn't that way better?" But I guess the analogy that I draw for that is that if you've got a screw that's screwing like the engine to your car, but that screw is only 90% screwed in, as you drive that thing, it's going to wobble and fall out, right? Or if you've got 90% of the combination to the lock, it's not going to open. You have to have all of it to get the result. And that, I just thought about that, but that's for me what it is. That's the difference. You can say, well, I've been doing it. I've been trying, I've been working on it. I'm doing it. I'm not getting results. But are you all in? That is it. That buying, that commitment is a challenge for sure. But what would you say is the first challenge when it comes to that?
The first challenge of being all bought in?
Yeah. Or not all bought in, as the case may be.
Yeah, I think it's recognizing when you're not.
Yep.
Sometimes we feel like we are, but I'm thinking of my own example. Something I'm bought in for. If I go on a family vacation, man, am I bought into that? Like, I'm super pumped and excited, and I'm doing all the things to show that I'm bought in. I'm packing my suitcase. I bought a plane ticket. All these things that I'm bought in for. Sometimes we show up to something to check the box or to get it done or to get on to the next thing. And I think about that. I think, am I doing things to the best of my ability? And sometimes maybe the antidote for being bought in is having too many things to be bought in for.
Yeah.
The thing I'm working on personally is cutting things out so I can be more bought into the things that are most important to me.
I just had a conversation with a guy. I was on his podcast about 3 years ago. Cool guy. His thing is the 3-day weekend, and he said, "Look, I worked about 34 hours last year, like week on week." It's like, man, he knows his average for the week. The working is that's cool. He's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get down to 25 this year." So it's a challenging thing to increase your income and lower the work time you work. But yeah, I was like, man, it's so cool to see you committed to your outcomes here. But you have to have that space, right? Because you can't be committed to everything. We're back to that same situation. I think about our leadership retreat we're going on next week as well. This is something that is significant. We don't do many of these. And I ask myself my question, am I committed? Well, what would 100% commitment look like? It would be lots of preparation and understanding what's going to happen, where I can add most value, who's going to be there, the whole deal of it. And then showing up and just being wham, slam it and like crank it. I'm not at that spot. I haven't got the preparation done, and I don't know that I'm going to trade off the space to create that. What do you do with that? Because what I do know is when I'm there, I'm going to show up and I'm be all in. But does that mean I'm not 100% committed? Probably, huh?
That's an interesting way to frame it. Now, I happen to know that you have a 5-hour drive ahead of you to get down to the retreat. So what sort of prep time could be completed during that time? I wonder. But there's something to be said about something that you're bought into that's new, that you're trying that maybe you feel overwhelmed with, or like you're behind the eight ball as far as skill set that's required, and therefore the prep time would greatly assist you or have a greater impact versus something that you do every day. Like the retreat is a version of our coaching, right? We're
Yeah.
basically coaching each other during that time. So we
Mm.
do have that superpower to tap into all the repetition that we built behind that. But to your point, and I did write this down, commitment equals preparation. And so in this instance where you have, a lot of practice and repetition to tap into to be present and feel prepared during our retreat time, um, I juxtapose that with something new that you're wanting to get good at that maybe you don't have the skill set for. So in this instance, it could just be thinking about something and getting ahead of and visualizing how it could go, and then when you're there, tapping into what you've already practiced so many years to perfect.
Yeah, and it goes back to how I used to think about this. Like when you realize that anything's possible, then it becomes, because when you're in a place of like not even realizing anything's possible, or not even playing that game, then it's just a mess, a jumbled mess. But once you realize that anything's possible, that has a double-edged sword, because now anything's possible and now everything's available. So then it becomes a question of two things. It becomes a question of commitment and priority. Now, what's the biggest distinction for me so far is just making that commitment of it's not 1 through 99 and it's more and more commitment. It's committed, not committed, which means I'm all in or not all in. And so maybe we need a softer word around what it is to be, say, 80% committed. That we define that commitment's it's not a scale, it's in or not. But maybe there's a better word around that. Maybe you can help me with that, coach. And once you say I'm all in on something, then it becomes, where does it fit on your priorities for the things that you've already said that you're already on? Because there's only so much of you to go around in a given possible time. And so there has to be a trade-off. If you're all in on something, either it's a trade-off on time. If there's a time urgency around that, it means a trade-off on something else you've already committed to. And then what are you left with? You're probably just left with a distraction list after that. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, committed, I wrote down all in versus maybe the other word I'd use is present. You can be present. You can be
Mm,
80% there, present, and still contribute. I think the commitment is the preparation that comes along with it, and maybe driving it,
yeah,
leading it. You're more prepared to be able to do that because you're so bought in.
yeah. It's very refreshing to be in a place where it's either not at all or all in. It's like on off, and because again, I go oftentimes examples back to my corporate days where there's so many things where it's just like it's in that grey area of like, I'm it'd be kind of sort of nice to have me on this call. I'm kind of sort of interested in what it might be. It kind of sort of impacts my team. Rarely was it, this is really important, I got to be here, I'm all in on this. And even rarer was that what you're talking about was that something I actually cared about to drive through to the finish. That's a big reason why I left. But yeah, I think that's a great distinction, because it's not something that, if I'm all in on it, I'm part of the preparation, I'm part of the outcome, and I'm giving my all to it from that perspective for a specific outcome. But it doesn't, just because I'm not doing it doesn't mean I don't care. But it does mean that I'm trading off other things. I'm willing to make that trade off for that for other things, and
Mm.
but still want to show up and still be present. But it's not in the place where I've got I've created the space, or willing to create the space to be able to be that all-in level version of it. Mm.
A few months back, we did an episode on if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no.
Yeah.
I think this is of that same family. If I'm not 100% committed to it, then maybe it's a no for me. And that feels light as it comes out of my mouth, because I can think of a whole bunch of things in my schedule that maybe I just show up for, or I am present for, that maybe, I could take another look at. I'd rather be fully committed to it or not, instead of that gray area in between. More to think about, Coach. I want to wrap with this and get you to maybe provide a tip for me and the listeners out there for how to get other people committed. What is a good tip to practice, or a great question to ask others? Maybe if we're running a meeting, or we're running a client session, or we're running a retreat, how might we frame it so that when people do show up to what we're putting on, that they're 100% committed.
Well, I like playing devil's advocate to things, go the opposite direction. I often do this with clients to keep it real, because people will be like, well, yeah, that it makes sense to continue because inertia tends to kick in and object in motion stays in motion. Check the other way around. What if you weren't here? What would it cost in time and money, resources for you or the people that are involved? I'm now thinking about that for next week. If I'm not at the retreat, what's it going to mean? And I think the answer is going to be that I'm gonna miss out on connection. I'm going to miss out on being part of shaping where we're going as a team for 2023. I believe that I'm going to take away some of the value from others if I'm not there as well. Because at this point, I mean, you both have been there for a decent amount of time. We're going to add a lot of value. So I think that it's worth checking in to reset and go, oh yeah, like definitely going. Like, never a question, right? I'm definitely going, but it's worth keeping it real, right? And we're actually back to awareness here, Coach.
Yeah, and I like the way you summarize that. Maybe not in so many words as I'm about to say. So maybe this is my summary here, but we're caught up in what we do. We're playing the game through our own lenses, and to think of it like that, frame the question: who else suffers if I'm not all in? Like that gives me chills up my spine to think about. Oh, this is there's other things at play here than just myself. So I want to think more about that. Appreciate that, Coach. Have a great day. Take this energy into the rest of your day. We'll see you next time on another episode of Truth Seekers.
There you go. Boom.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction. So please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.